Hello and welcome to another chat. This one's going to be about camouflage, in particular, something that Russia is doing in the Black Sea in the last few weeks and days to camouflage their warships against Ukrainian attacks. You might have noticed all around the world, warships are almost universally painted grey or grey blue. The days of complex camouflage schemes would seem to be over. And the simple reason for this is radars and to an extent infrared. There isn't much point in trying to paint your ship in a complex camouflage scheme if it's going to be hit by a radar guided missile. Now, there are some exceptions, in particular coastal vessels. These tend to be small. Also, recently, it's become fashionable to paint some warships in historical camouflage schemes. But camouflage schemes, like the ones on the screen, are very rarely, if ever, applied to large combatants, large warships. Russian Navy is no exception. This is a Russian frigate in Sevastopol in Crimea. So this is during the invasion of Ukraine. And you can see it's just a overall grey blue paint scheme. This is changing. Very recently, Russia started to paint the front and back, the bow and the stern of its warships black, or a very dark color, I think black. Now, there's no photographs of this that I can use, public ones, but it's definitely happening, and I can show you some satellite imagery, and we can talk about why it's happening. So, a few caveats. Of course, I'm H.I. Sutton. I'm an independent defense analyst. I'm using open source intelligence, OSINT. I focus mainly on the hardware side of things. I did publish a story that I sort of broke this story last week in Naval News, and I've published a little bit more about it. Okay, so like my other talks, this is unscripted, unedited. It's already obvious, I know. Let's get on with it. So this is the first warship we noticed. This is a satellite image. It's reasonably good resolution. As you can see, the front and the back, the bow and the stern of the ship have been painted at the sides in black or a very dark color. The top of the bow, the deck in front of the gun, that was always a dark color. But it's new that they painted the sides. So the profile has gone something like this, from a grey warship at the top to one with black or dark hidden front and bow. Before we talk about what it is, let's cover a few things that it's not. You do see black paint on the side of ships that have diesel engines. This is something different. This is a Russian warship also during the invasion, a relevant one, but they've always had the sides painted there, and it's because of exhausts. This is a type of ship that ordinarily has black paint there. This particular example doesn't, and you can see the staining from the exhaust. That's what the black paint is covering up. So it's not that. Also, it's not Dazzle Camouflage. Dazzle Camouflage is really cool. It was applied in World War One and to a lesser extent World War Two, and it comes from the time when warships or any ships were going to be attacked by guns. And to aim your gun at a ship, particularly moving one, you needed to know how far away it was, where it's heading, what its speed is, and so on. So the idea of Dazzle Camouflage is not to hide the ship, but to make it very difficult to get a target fix on it. Not that effective, but interesting. Certainly very beautiful. So it's not Dazzle Camouflage. What I think it is a form of Deceptive Camouflage. And this has been used in history before, although much rarer. The best example is the German battleship Bismarck from World War II. The top photo here has Bismarck just in overall battleship grey. The bottom photograph, they have painted the bow and stern a darker color. And they've even added fake bow wave and also a wake at the back. Again, they're not trying to hide the existence of the ship, but they're trying to confuse the person looking at it, particularly in poor light conditions and so on, or if it's against a dark background, such as a field in Norway. This is what I think is happening in Russia. Why would they be returning to camouflage that's designed to deceive a human or something looking optically at them and not via radar? I think it's to do with maritime drones. That's the most obvious explanation. Ukraine has started to use small speedboats essentially with explosive charges. There's no person on them. They instead have a camera. And what they see looks something like this. This is just a still from one of the videos. So they have a camera. It's pretty low resolution video feed, but it's enough that they can steer the boat and try to ram the target. This is a small fishing boat that was caught unawares in Sevastopol Harbor. The drone didn't hit it. Um, what the drone's looking for is things like this. It's looking for warships, high value ones. And in particular, this is one of the Russian Navy frigates in Sevastopol rearming with Caliber cruise missiles. This would be a very high priority target because, of course, Caliber cruise missiles are hitting Ukraine. And it's one of the few things that the Russian Navy is doing in the war currently. If we imagine a drone pilot's view, it's going to be blurry, but with the back and the bow made dark, it's going to blend into the background much more. You can imagine that you might misidentify this ship or misunderstand what's going on and target some other ship. Now, I'm sure that everyone watching this would be an ace drone pilot. It would never, never trick you, but we can start to see how it might trick someone in a high pressure situation where you're looking for a target. You see this, you might mistake what ship this is, what's going on. And in war, from a Russian perspective, they're being shot at, and in this case, rammed by explosive laden maritime drones. Then anything which might work is probably worth trying. And Russia must feel that this is worth doing because since the first ship was painted, they've actually now painted 3 more. This is recent satellite imagery from a few days ago. We have the ship that we already saw. That's Admiral Essen. It's a frigate. We have its sister ship, Admiral Makarov. That has a more elaborate paint scheme where they've also painted the helipad at the back of the ship in the dark color. And they've painted the bow as well. And there's also 2 missile corvettes. These are the Bayern M class. These also are quite significant high priority targets for Ukraine. What connects these? Why are these high priority targets? They're all Caliber armed ships. Based on what we've observed so far, it seems that this camouflage is being applied either exclusively or certainly as a priority to the Caliber armed ships. So it would imply that Russia sees these ships as being the most likely to be targeted by Ukraine and the ones that need the most protection. Also, there's a slight evolution. We mentioned that the first ship, the camouflage is applied to the side of the ship and less so to the top. So it is primarily designed to deceive an eye that's on the same level as the ship on the surface, i.e. a drone. But this satellite image shows that they're also trying to deceive satellites. So this is a Bayern M. Could be highly confident that. There's the outline with the camouflage, the outline without the camouflage, and just for reference, what it looks like in very high resolution satellite imagery. Slightly different angle, but you get the idea. You can imagine that if you are an analyst looking at satellite images, you could be deceived, particularly if you're in a rush. I think if you've got high resolution imagery and you've got the time and the experience, then you're not going to be deceived by this. I don't think it's going to trick the best analysts in NATO or in Ukraine. But not everyone has a lot of time to look at the images. It is possible that it could cause misidentification if very fast turnaround analysis, that sort of thing. Also, if Ukraine or anyone is using artificial intelligence to track ships and classify them and so on, then it could mess with that quite significantly. A lot of those are going to use the length of the ship as a primary factor, and they're going to use the contrast and try to discern the outline of the ship algorithmically. And this is going to mess with that, I think. Additionally, not everything is high resolution. This is a low resolution satellite image. It's also very powerful. We can't identify ships as easily, but trained eyes can still make a lot of sense, get a lot of intelligence from this imagery. And there are some advantages to low resolution imagery as well as disadvantages. There, where the arrow is, we have the warship rearming, not from the same day as the photograph, but it's the same situation. That's what we're seeing there. I could look at that low resolution satellite image and say, hey, there is a ship at that pier. It's rearming. It'll probably still be there tonight. And you can imagine that the Ukrainians would look at that and say, the ship's still there as of this point in time. If we send the drones now, they should aim there. It's probably still going to be there. It's just speculation, but it's not a far-fetched. If the ship is camouflaged, possibly it will be harder to discern in the low resolution image which ship it is. It's going to look shorter and they might misidentify it, especially if you're moving fast. So it could be powerful. Additionally, low resolution satellite imagery, as well as being used by open source people a lot, has advantages that they routinely take a lot of imagery of open water, whereas high resolution satellite imagery does not routinely do that. So if you want to find a ship out at sea, you stand a better chance with Sentinel-2 low resolution satellite imagery. And if we zoom in on that ship, I can say with confidence that that is one of the Russian frigates, the caliber armed frigates, returning to port. It takes some experience. Again, length is a major variable. If they paint it, I would expect that it's going to make this much harder. I'd like to think we're not going to be completely fooled all the time, but depending on the lighting and so on, it might become very hard to do the same analysis. But we yet to see. They're doing this right now. We don't yet have any photographs. I do not yet have any examples that I can share. This is really hot news. Okay. Thank you ever so much for your time. If you liked it, please share. This is not monetized, just a guy talking about defense analysis. Check out Naval News on my website. I'll put links in the description. Thank you.